if the engine suddenly stopped mid-flight, or if your plane was fighting violent crosswinds in the middle of a storm. It's a terrifying thought, but for some passengers, it became a reality. When things go wrong in the air, it's up to the pilot to turn chaos into control. In just seconds, they must balance the aircraft, fight gravity, and attempt a landing that could mean life or death. In this video from Absolute Facts, we're climbing thousands of meters into the sky to bring you 8 of the most extreme airplane landings ever caught on camera, where skill, luck, and nerves of steel saved the day. Buckle up, because this flight is about to get wild. Number 8, the miracle on the Hudson. Flames shot from the engines. Passengers gasped. And in just one terrifying minute after takeoff, Flight 1549 was in serious trouble. An ordinary trip from New York to Seattle turned into a fight for survival when a flock of geese slammed into the Airbus, a 320, disabling both engines. The cockpit fell silent. The sky offered no mercy. Captain Sully knew he couldn't make it back to the runway. With 150 passengers' lives hanging in the balance, he made a decision few would dare attempt a water landing right in the middle of the Hudson River. It was risky, unthinkable, but it worked. The aircraft skimmed the surface and stayed afloat just long enough for everyone to escape through the wings and wait for rescue. Not a single life lost. What could have been a disaster became one of the greatest survival stories in aviation history. And it all came down to one pilot's calm under pressure. Number 7, no roof. The flight with no roof. At 7,300 meters in the air, the last thing you expect is for the roof to vanish. But that's exactly what happened. Mid-flight over Hawaii, a Boeing 737 suddenly suffered explosive decompression, and the top of the cabin over the first 6 rows tore completely off. Passengers were hit by a brutal blast of -5 degrees Celsius wind, flying through the cabin at over 530 kilometers per hour. The sky wasn't just outside the window anymore, it was right in their faces. And yet, somehow, they held on. The only reason they weren't sucked out? Their seatbelts. But flight attendants caught mid-service took the worst of it. As chaos erupted, the pilot pushed the plane into a steep dive, dropping thousands of meters in minutes flying on just one engine. And miraculously, he landed it. Everyone survived. A flight with no roof and no margin for error became one of aviation's most unbelievable survival stories. Number 6, beach landing. The beach where planes fly just meters above you. Imagine lying on a beach when a jetliner suddenly thunders just 10 meters above your head. Welcome to Maho Beach in St. Martin, where paradise meets pure adrenaline. Right next door sits Princess Juliana International Airport, one of the few places on Earth where massive planes land frighteningly low over sunbathers. With a runway just 2,180 meters long, pilots are forced to descend early, flying low and fast over a packed beach. The result? Winds strong enough to knock people off their feet, sandstorms from jet blasts, and heart-stopping moments that go viral daily. Tourists gather with cameras ready, chasing the thrill, while authorities post warnings urging caution. Because here, takeoffs and landings don't just shake the ground, they shake the crowd. It's breathtaking, it's dangerous, and it turns every landing into a high-stakes performance just meters above your towel. Number 5, Pilotless Plane. The pilot who landed without seeing flying blind sounds like a movie plot, but for Ukrainian pilot Alexander Akopov, it became a terrifying reality. Just after takeoff from Istanbul, a brutal hailstorm shattered the plane's nose and smashed the cockpit window, leaving him unable to see straight ahead. There were 121 passengers and 6 crew members on board. Panic could have taken over, but it didn't. With the windshield gone and visibility near zero, Akopov turned the aircraft back, relying solely on his instruments and what little he could see through the side window. The odds were stacked against him. But in a moment of absolute pressure, he stayed calm, focused, and landed the plane flawlessly at Ataturk Airport. As the wheels touched down, the airport burst into applause. Other pilots flashed their lights in salute. Some even rushed to shake his hand. That day, the world didn't just witness a landing, it witnessed a hero in the cockpit. Number 4, smoke cloud. Swallowed by a cloud of fire. It started like a normal flight. A Boeing 747 soaring from London to Auckland, with a stopover in Kuala Lumpur. But minutes after takeoff, the cabin began to fill with smoke, and strange sparks danced across the cockpit windows. There was no storm, no lightning, just a blinding white glow that wrapped around the plane. Pilots call it Street Elmo's fire, a rare phenomenon, but this time, it was hiding something deadly. Suddenly, flames shot from all 4 engines. Then, silence. One by one, the engines failed. The aircraft was now gliding at 4,100 meters powerless, with 248 passengers and 15 crew on board. Fear gripped everyone, many braced for the worst. And then a miracle. The 4th engine kicked in, then another, and another, until all 4 were running again. The crew managed a safe landing in Jakarta. Only later did they learn the truth. They'd flown straight through a volcanic ash cloud, invisible in the sky, but almost fatal. Number 3. Gimly Glider. The Gimly Glider. 132 tons, with no power. At 12,000 meters in the air, both engines failed. The cockpit went silent. No power, no instruments, and almost no hydraulics. This was Air Canada's Boeing 767 now gliding like a paper plane. What caused it? A critical fuel miscalculation. Instead of 20 tons of kerosene, the plane was filled with just 5. All because ground crews confused kilograms with pounds. But the chaos didn't end there. With 132 tons of metal silently dropping from the sky, the pilots were forced to aim for the only chance they had: an abandoned airbase in Gimli. And here's the twist. It was being used for a car race at that exact moment. No electricity, minimal steering control. Yet somehow, the pilots pulled off a perfect emergency landing right through the racetrack. Not a single person was injured. They called it the Gimli Glider. We call it a masterclass in calm under pressure and pure aviation skill. Number 2. Defective landing gear. The landing no one will ever forget. What would you do if your pilot announced, "We can't get the landing gear down"? That was the chilling reality for 116 passengers flying into Astana, Kazakhstan. The front landing gear refused to open, and the pilot had to make an unthinkable decision: land the plane without a nose wheel. As the aircraft descended, every heartbeat inside the cabin felt like a countdown. The moment the plane touched the runway, its nose slammed into the ground, dragging across 30 meters of tarmac, throwing sparks and tension into the air. But here's the twist: no one was hurt, not a single soul. The pilot's calm under pressure and precision in chaos turned what could have been a disaster into a story of pure aviation heroism. Number 1. Hurricane landing. Hurricane landing. A pilot's worst nightmare landing. A plane is tough, but try doing it while a hurricane slams you with 120 km/h winds. That's what this pilot faced while approaching Hamburg Airport during the fury of Hurricane Emma. Everything looked under control until the moment of touchdown. Suddenly, a violent crosswind jerked the aircraft sideways, and at 250 km/h, the wing smashed against the runway. For a split second, disaster felt inevitable. But instead of forcing the landing, the pilot made a split-second decision, pushing the engines back to full throttle and taking off again. They circled, lined up for a second try, and miraculously landed, despite serious damage to the wing. Precision. Nerves of steel. A cockpit masterclass.